Hey y'all, it's been some time since I uploaded on YouTube. I just wanted to come on here and talk about the shit show that is Michigan football right now. On the field, they're great. 10-0, on their way to a Big Ten championship if they beat Ohio State. That game is going to be a ton of fun to watch. As an Ohio State fan, it's going to be a great show. That being said, I can't overlook how much of a shit show Michigan is, like I said in the intro. There's so many problems, so many issues that, to me, are a sure shot lack of institutional control, instant firing for any program, not just Michigan. I'm going to go over everything that Michigan has had happen this year, the suspensions, the firings, everything. So I'm just going to go in order. This is off a list I found off of, I think, CBS Sports or one of the other sites that have reported this. You're going to catch me looking off to the side because I have notes written about everything because it's a lot and I don't have it all memorized. But I'll just go ahead and read through it and you guys tell me if this is lack of institutional control or not. So first things first. January 5th of this year, NCAA sends notice to Michigan saying, hey, you broke some recruiting rules. Michigan fans have tried to spin this as, oh, it's just because they bought a recruit a burger, which they did, but it was during a recruiting dead period. That's where the issue comes from with the NCAA. Harbaugh faced a 3-game suspension for that. The NCAA wanted to expedite that investigation, and they couldn't come to an agreement. They were trying to get 4 games. They ended up settling on 3, and that was that with that. I don't really have the recruiting. I don't know the rules, so I can't really speak on that. January 20th is where it gets even worse for Michigan, where it gets really bad. Their co-offensive coordinator, Matt Weiss, was fired after it was reported that he failed to attend a meeting to discuss whether he had gained unauthorized access to computer accounts assigned to other people in December of 2022. So this is at the very beginning of the year. He got fired, and they thought that was the end of it. I'll talk more about that later. Moving on to May of this year, Shemi Schembechler, the son of Bo Schembechler, famous Michigan coach, who Jim Harbaugh played under, resigns 3 days after he was hired by the university. Just 3 days after posts surfaced of him making racial remarks, being blatantly racist. So he was rightfully fired, in my opinion. On July 25th, so you get a couple months further in, July 25th of this year, Michigan and NCAA were working on a resolution with a 4-game suspension for the recruiting violations. And on August 12th, so a few weeks after that, reports surfaced that the agreement for the suspension did not get through whatever governing board it had to get through. So that kind of ended that until Michigan imposed its own 3-game ban on Harbaugh on August 21st, 9 days later. So that whole recruiting thing, like I said, I don't know the rules. I can't speak on that. On October 18th, this is where the sign stealing mess starts. NCAA notified the Big Ten that it alleged of advanced in-person scouting from Michigan, which has been illegal since, I want to say 2014. I'm not entirely sure on that date, but it's been illegal for some time. The next day, Connor Stalions, who they framed as a low-level staffer, was identified as the front man for the sign stealing. A few days after that, October 23rd, ESPN reports that Stalions had purchased tickets for 30 games at 11 Big Ten schools since 2021. So this is allegedly when the cheating scandal started. On October 26th, the FBI joined the Weiss investigation. So Michigan handed that over and told the FBI, you handle it. Pardon me, I'm moving over to my next page. Yes, there's a next page. On October 27th, a former D3 player and assistant coach tells ESPN that Stalions paid him a couple $100 and gave him a ticket to a future Michigan game to record future Michigan opponents. So Stalions was recruiting people to record games for him and record signs, which is, again, illegal. Central Michigan got involved in this mess a few days after that because a man who looked like Stalions appeared on their sideline during a game against Michigan State, who played Michigan a couple weeks after that. So that was a little sketchy. Central Michigan said they didn't know who it was. They couldn't identify who it was. They don't know how he got a sideline pass. I call BS on that. On November 1st, Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commish, had a meeting with all the Big Ten coaches and said, hey, we're aware of this going on. We're investigating it. We'll give you updates as we can. And a lot of the coaches, from what I heard, the majority of the coaches were upset with the cheating scandal and they wanted something to happen quick. The next day, Michigan Prez Santa Ono, I don't know if I'm saying that name right. I'm sorry if I'm not. Says that he wants due process. Keep that in mind. He said due process. That happened on the 2nd. On the 3rd, this show gets even worse. Stalions resigned. For what reason? I don't know. He says it's because he'd become a distraction to the program. I don't believe that. I think he knew he was in deep shit and wanted to get out of there. He said no one told him to break the rules. He was acting on his own, and I, again, do not believe that. On that same day, low-level staffer, quote-unquote, Alex Yude, was fired after it was revealed that he had tried to solicit a minor, and obviously he was arrested. So that's just not a good look. On November 6th, the Big Ten formally notified Michigan, and that's a big deal because if they formally notify them, that means they have something to look at. And they told them, hey, you could be facing disciplinary action here. On November 10th, Harbaugh was finally suspended for the rest of the regular season. And Michigan vowed, we're going to fight this tooth and nail. We're not going to let this suspension happen. Yesterday, 6 days after the suspension was levied, Michigan and Jim Harbaugh dropped the appeal. I don't know why. They just said, we'll take the 3-game suspension and run with it. And then today, without explanation, Michigan's linebacker coach, Chris Partridge, was fired. There's allegations that he was caught trying to destroy evidence of the sign stealing scandal. Apparently he was caught destroying a computer or something to that effect. I read an article earlier. I haven't researched that enough to know if that's true or not, but he was fired. So already this year, they've had all this junk happen, and they've had 3 staffers fired. They've had Stalions, Yude, and Partridge all fired. You be the judge. Would an innocent program with nothing to hide be firing all these coaches without, as they say, due process? I don't think so. I think they know they're in deep shit, and they know something's coming from the NCAA, and they don't want to face the music. I think that's the gist of it. I'd love to hear opinions of other people. Like I said, I'm an Ohio State fan. I've tried to remain impartial with this. I was skeptical of this cheating scandal to begin with, but now it happened, and all this stuff's coming out, and I'd love to hear other people's opinions on this, because I think it's bullshit that they're now asking for due process, and then when that happens, when they get the due process, Harbaugh gets the due process in court, he drops the case. I don't get that.